Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. I appreciate it. How many of you are here at the mansion for the very first time? Anybody? Wow, look at that. Well, is this not a beautiful place, those of you old and new? Gorgeous, gorgeous. So please make sure you come back. And now, let's get to our program. Our speaker tonight is Jim Toepfer, or James Toepfer. Maybe I should use his formal name. Jim was the president of Mission Viejo, Colorado. So he was the very first person, president of the division. He came out here when there was basically zero, other than basically the mansion. And one of the pictures he'll probably show you is when there was basically nothing here. And that's what he had to work with, he and his crew. And look at what we have today. That was back in the late 70s. So it didn't take all that long, and here we have a community of almost 100,000. We keep being recognized as, top of this and top of that. So whatever they did a great job. Would we all not agree to that? Yes. So Jim is going to come on up here. Jim used to be in Orange County. He was with the California Planning Department. Then he went to Santa Ana. He was the planning director there. And then in October of '63, he became the chief planner for Mission Viejo. And he'll tell you all about the history of Mission Viejo and how that all came about. So come on up, Jim. Thank you very much.
I don't know why Nancy asked me to talk. At 88 years old, you forget half of this stuff. Great presentation, I tell you. Why don't you just go sit down? How many people that right here, since you moved to Highlands Ranch, your neighbors or whatever, that are here? Are you with any friends here tonight? Yes. Raise your hand. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you what would have happened if I had said no years ago. I was raised during the Depression. My folks lost everything. Their home, their just everything. And we rented a farmhouse for $39 a month. We had no running water. We had 2 radiators for heat, a cook stove my mother cooked on, and all the clothing had to be done by hand. And with a scrub board, a wringer, and it was miserable. My mother froze her hand many times hanging clothes up in zero weather. So anyway, I was challenged, and I survived. We used the same bath water in the evenings on Saturday. One of the biggest things was when I went to high school, and I went into every sport I could, and I could take a shower. I'm telling you, it was really refreshing, but I had 2 sisters. One was 4 years younger, the other was 4 years older. And the one that was 4 years younger, she loved to stand on top of the chair and sing "Beautiful Dreamer." It just drove me crazy. My other sister went into nursing after she got up through high school. She went to St. Louis, worked in the sanitarium, TB and contacted TB. And you haven't heard what happened to my family. So anyway, I survived. I went through grade school, the school about a half mile away, Nichols School. And then I went to high school, and I had to hitchhike in to the high school. We lived about 3 or 4 miles out of town. And so then I walked about a half a mile to, what are you doing? And I went to high school every day like that. Before I went into school, I had to get up, feed the chickens, get in, have a breakfast by my mother, made me a sandwich and an apple, hitchhiked into town, and played sports, hitchhiked back home. Then when I went to the university in Wisconsin, how many graduated from Wisconsin here? Oh, man, I love you people. My family is nothing but Colorado, and this guy over here graduated from Stanford with masters, I don't know. And, but all the rest of them graduated from universities here in Colorado. I don't know why they didn't go to Wisconsin. Anyway, but I played football for the Badgers, and it was a tough time because I was still feeding chickens, getting a sandwich, into town, taking the bus up to the campus, going to classes, going to the library, and studying. Then at 2:30 I had to go out to the field house there and we practiced football. Then after that, took a bus over to the student union, had training table. That was over about 8:30. Had to get on a bus to go out of town and got home every night at 10:30. That makes a long day. And my coach was Harry Schruger. How many of you guys ever heard of him? One of the four horsemen of Notre Dame. You guys are really too young. But anyway, I finally graduated from the university in city planning, and I looked for a job. And my wife finished, oh, I gotta tell you this story. When I was a little toddler in 3rd grade, I didn't have any neighbors to speak of, but I did have a little girl that came out to visit her grandma. And she would come stay for a week, and every morning she'd come across the meadow and going, boo, boo, and I'd go, boo, back. And we'd meet out there, and we'd take the wash water from my mother's scrub things, drowned out gophers and all that stuff. And anyway, one day we were playing, just the two of us playing circus. And she came over and she had a little teepee. So she unfolded it. And she said, I'm going in to change costumes. Don't peek. You're right. I peeked. But the tragic part is she never came out again until she saw her in 11th grade in high school. She went to a different high school than me, and I went to East, she went to Central. But then, by some strange event, the girls at East High, there's a sub-deb, you ever hear of sub-deb? Maybe all the fancy girls from East High School, they grew up, they know, and they put on a dance each year, the sub-deb dance. And the girls in East challenged her to call up Toepfer, because he doesn't date girls. And I didn't have time to date girls. I was busy hitchhiking and taking buses. And that's the honest truth. So anyway, it's 12th grade, and January, and I get a phone call. And it's Sue, this young lady. And I'm talking, my mother heard me talking, and she said, you just said to school that you have a schedule? What schedule do you have, Jim? You don't have any schedule. And she said, who are you talking to? And I said, Sue Schneider. What does she want? She wants me to go to a dance. I don't know how to dance. And she said, go. And I said, okay. I couldn't dance. I didn't know what a dance was, being a farm boy. So I had $1, and I went to Hale School of Dancing, and I took 2. This isn't funny. I took the bus up there, and I took 2 lessons. Then the night of the formal came. And there was one time I got to use my dad's car. And he had a 31, he had a Model T. And I picked her up, and we got married. I mean, not that night, but we got married. So anyway, she died about 10 years ago. What's going to bitch? Anyway, excuse me, okay? Anyway, I I asked you if, did you know yourself before your friends there? And I think of the many people here would not have met the people that you met if I had said no. And I'm not getting married, but I was looking for a job, and I didn't have any money. One thing I didn't say that even made it worse for me, after the Purdue game in football, my dad had a heart attack. He was out of work for 6 months. So there's my mother and me and my sister that still was singing, and so anyway, I graduated, and I could not afford, there were millions of planning jobs. Cincinnati, Miami, even Denver. Well, I hurry up, come on out for an oral and written exam. And I couldn't afford it. And I got a letter from Orange County, California, and they said, you're hired. I said, Sue, what's with this? And I wrote back and said, I'll take the job. It paid $440 a month. I was pretty much. And so we packed up, and I had a 6 month. We had a 6 month baby, old baby Nancy. Nancy, you here? Where's my daughter? There she is. Oh, over there. She's in her Highlands Ranch with her husband Scott. She's got 2 daughters and a grandson. I mean, a son, my grandson. And anyway, how many grandkids we got now? 3 or 4 of those things, another. Yeah. So anyway, we packed up, we went to across the desert and everything else, no air conditioning, and I checked in at Santa Ana to go in the next day to the Orange County Planning Department Personnel Office in Santa Ana. We got into the city, and the smog was so bad, I couldn't believe it. I said, we're not going to stay, I'm not going to go. So anyway, I went down to the next day, I woke up, it was beautiful out. It was absolutely gorgeous. So I said, I'm going down to the personnel office and check it out. So I go in the personnel office, and I said, I'm Mr. Toepfer, I got a thing here, I'm supposed to report for a job. And may I talk to Mr. Hart, the personnel officer? And the girl said, sure. But out of the office comes a girl, and she said, Jimmy! And I said, Margaret! And she graduated in high school with me, and she was now the personnel director's secretary. I mean, my life has just been something. So I became the planning director of Santa Ana. I shift jobs there after about 3 years. With everybody saying, go with Jim, go. And I was a planning director for a couple of years, and then an opening came on the planning commission. And the commissions and the city council in the Senate said, you know anybody that would be a good planning commissioner? I said, well, I know an attorney, and he represents his clients very well. His name is Phil Riley. Phil is one of the founders of Mission Viejo Company. Now, he was. Don Bren was a founder, and he came up with the concept of building a city. Phil was an attorney, and he was Bren's attorney. And they said, Jim, they met with me, would you like to come and plan the city of Mission Viejo? He said, I was going to say no. And I said, you're kidding. I said, I got to check with Sue. I went home, told her all about it, and she said, Jim, you got a beautiful job right now here in the city. And I went back to Phil and said, sorry, Phil, but I'm going to take the job. So, anyway, Phil was planning commissioner, then he became the president of the Mission Viejo Company with Don Bram, and there's 3 of us. We started that company. And if you can imagine, the night they closed escrow on buying 850 acres of Mission Viejo Ranch, it was something, and here we're sitting in Don Bren's office, a round table, the 3 of us. And Bren says, here it is, Phil, and a checkbook for $37,000. Riley takes it and he says, here, Jim, plan it. And I threw it back at both of them. I I said, I think I need some help. Not too many people build a city. And it happened just that way. I just found out last week, Brenda's worth $15 billion. $15 billion. I'm only worth $20 billion. No, anyway, but after a couple of years, Brent decided he wanted to move on. So he left the job with Phil, and we got Philip Morris to come in and buy us for $48 million. And that's when we started building really the city. And Philip Morris was wonderful because they had money. And Philip Morris cigarettes, Miller beer, everybody on the board of directors, Chase Manhattan Bank. They were just buku guys of which I was scared to death of. I remember I gave my first board meeting in New York, and you go in this beautiful room, all of walnut, and you got 9 guys sitting around there, all of these big corporations. And I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. And Phil was next to me, kicked me in the shins and said, talk. And so I gave a report, and it was over. And from then on, we became the best of friends with Philip Morris directors and got to know them very intimately. So anyway, we ended up building Mission Viejo. We got a picture of that. And everything you see there in the dark, and the lake, we built the lake. We did everything. It was incredible. And I never, look at me today even. And so anyway, we built everything, and Phil somehow finagled the water for the lake, which they still have necessary permits. And we built, there's now 100,000 people living here. They incorporated, but don't incorporate your people. You've got a wonderful thing going with the district, and you've got everything you want. If you want to be involved in the community action stuff, join the district, run for a district position. But we were so fortunate enough to have the political things that most cities have when they, incorporate and so forth. But anyway, we eventually we built out there, and then the thing came along. We built a little project in Phoenix, and we call the lakes. Anybody heard of the lakes in Phoenix? There's one. Do you like it? Okay, you better say it. And then we tried Mission Viejo, Aurora. You heard that one? Yeah. And that was we bought a mile of square mile. We did elaborate plans. You saw a plan, a picture of me. There was a real nice big plan. And we did everything A1. Beautiful, big exhibits. And I made a presentation to the city council in Aurora. And 3 days before, Phil made a presentation. He came over and made a presentation. And he had a circular slide thing. And it tipped over. And Phil is one of these guys for perfection. And the mayor said, I think this will be one of the shortest presentations we've ever had. And so we went ahead and we planned it. And I showed up there at the planning commission and city council meeting and presented our plan. And I went through, it was beautiful what we prepared. Okay, I finished, they approved it. Then the mayor said, hey, Sam, you got something for us? And Sam comes up to me, yeah, Bill, or whatever it was, he said, I got this little subdivision I want to have approved. He pulled it out of his pocket. And he said, oh, that looks pretty good, Sam, or whatever. And all in favor? Aye. And I thought, the thousands of dollars I went to in putting this plan together. So anyway, we eventually decided to look at this property from Phipps Ranch. And I had a manager that was doing the mission, Aurora project, and he said, Jim, there's 21,000 acres available. Do you want to buy it? And I said, let me check with Phil. So Phil got his marketing guy together, and he said, do you think there's a market? And he said, Jim, check out the water, all the stuff that we may need is going to be available. So I reported back to him probably 3 weeks later, and we made a deal with Marvin Davis. He bought it from Phipps the same day for $13 million. We turned around on escrow, gave him $26 million, the same moment, same day. And Phil said, no, I think you better go up and see Governor Lamb and talk to him about it. I don't think they're very happy about us. And he said, no, send your assistant, Craig McCallum, down to talk to the county commissioner. I think it'd be a good idea. So did that, met Lamb. He said, you know, Jim, I don't like this. And Craig came back and he says, don't ever do that again. He said, they were terrible to me. He said, I never wanted you to do that to me again. And so anyway, you got the slide there telling about all the things that went there for us, all the opposition we had. We had everybody against us. I was hung an effigy from that fence. There, right there. True statement. There was a body there hanging from the thing, and it was Toepfer. And we went over there when we closed that day we closed the escrow. And imagine 21,000 acres of land. All that was there was this, cattle growing, a mansion way off in the distance, this place. And that was it. There was a little building over the cheese ranch. But anyway, and Phil says, Jim, he took his car keys out, and he handed them to me like they were keys to the ranch. He said, it's all yours, plan it, I'm going back to California. And there I am standing all by myself. True story. I didn't have any staff or anything, and plan it. So I somehow got guys to come over and from California and help me. Craig McCallum, Jerry Poston, any of these names sound familiar to you? But anyway, they came over and I hired Art Cook, brought him over. He was a great person over there in California. Art, by the way, as much as I kid him, he's one of the finest people I've ever known, and we just vacationed together in Canada and on Lake Powell and with families. But I'm not talking about nice things tonight for you. But I brought Art over, and I said, Art, I think I need you. And he said, what do you need me for? And I said, I want you to be in charge of personnel and office services. Well, why that? Well, we didn't have any desks. We only had 3 or 4 employees. We had a little office that we had up on Arapahoe and I-20, the freeway, and that was our first office. And he came in one day and he said, Jim, I don't want to be the personnel director and in charge of this other stuff. He said, well, that's what I brought you over here for, Art. And I said, what do you want to do? And he said, I want to be on the ranch. And I said, go. And I got another guy to take the personnel and all that stuff. Art went out to camp. I never saw you for about 2 years. He had a great line. Art is one of the finest guys. Let me tell you what he did once. Okay, twice. Art came in one day and he said, Jim, I think we can make some points down here in the county if we buy the steer, the 4-H steer. I said, how much you need? He said, about $4,000, $5,000. I said, okay, will that do some good PR? Oh yeah. He came back next Monday and I get to the office early anyway, but he was sitting in my office. I said, what are you here for? He said, we got the beef, we got the steer. And so we're gonna butcher it and give it to all the poor people over there in Viejo. I said, okay. And so time went on, the next year came. Jim, can I see you? I hadn't seen him in a year. And so anyway, he said, it's time for the 4-H thing again. He said, I need money for a steer. I said, how much do you think you need? He said, I probably need about 8,000 this time. And he said, okay, but make sure you get it. Okay, so the next Monday comes, no art. And I talked to my secretary, Barbara, and I said, would you get art up here? They said, yeah, I want to find out what he did at the 4-H thing. In comes art. Yeah. Sit down. What do we get? We get it? No, Jim. I couldn't outbid the other guy. He bought it for $10,000, and I didn't have enough money to go that high. And he said, well, what'd you do with the money we saved? It? He said, well, I bought 3 sheep, 2 goats, and about 5 baskets of canned goods from the ladies down there. And I shook my head, and I told him to get out of there. We never made another offer, did we? There are so many things I'm leaving out here and I'm forgetting. The Scotts, you here? We're the Scott family. There they are. The first family that moved into Highlands Ranch. We had a fantastic deal on houses. What interest rate do you think?
13%.
12.5%. What are they today? Yeah, you got to take it. But before I talk more about the ranch here, here's a little country boy, and in California, I met President Reagan. We sold him a campus for college, Saddleback College. I met Governor Ford, President Ford, and he dedicated our flag. And Art, I think you got a letter from the president complimenting you for something. Oh, geez. President Nixon went to look at their place along the coast, and she took me through there, and she plucked a real beautiful rose and told me to give it to my wife, which it's in a book, one of my books. Then Don was so involved. His wife was Claire Trevor. You ever heard of her? Okay, and she was with John Wayne in Stagecoach movie. I got to know John on a Jim John basis. He was in there all the time talking to Bren. And Sue struck up a very nice conversation with Claire, and hit it off beautifully. And so I met all kinds of other people. Jane Russell, Bobby Jones. You ever hear of the golfer? Huh? A tragic story. We rough graded, I'm shifting back a little bit, but it's interesting in the people. We hired him to design a Mission Viejo golf course there in California. And it was all rough graded. And he came out in the plane, and it rained about 2 or 3 inches that day. I got out on the golf course, and he stepped out of the car and he went up to the mud, almost up to his knees. He said, "Take me back." True story. I took him back to the office. Said, "You want to go see Phil?" He said, "No, I've seen enough." From then on, his son came out and led us through the construction of the golf course. But boy, he was one nasty guy. I got a couple other stories. I got way back here, but they're interesting. You know Chris Everett? Okay. We had Virginia Slims out there, and we put on a cocktail party one evening, and we're sitting drinking. She said, "You look just like Steve McQueen." And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "His dad." That floored me right there. But as long as I'm talking about people, I'll tell you a little story coming back here to Colorado. One of the first things I did after we closed escrow and the ranch, I went down to meet Tweet Kimball. You know Tweet? And I made an appointment, and I thought I was going to get killed. But anyway, I introduced myself, and I had my assistant with me, and she said, I know why you're here. And she let me in the door of the castle. I said, why? She said, you want my vote on the planning commission, I know that. I said, no, I came over here to just tell you that we bought the ranch and we want to be a good neighbor. But you can be a good neighbor if you fix your fence and keep your cattle out of mine. I said, look, you have the most beautiful red Angus cow, and that killer, they are Santa Gertrude, this are not red Angus. Now you fix that fence, or otherwise I'll and she we became the best of friends, and I learned a whole new thing here in Colorado. When they say informal affair, you don't wear what I got on, and my wife, a sweater and a skirt. You have a suit on, or a sport coat. First when we showed up, we had the sweater and skirt, and she understood. And next time we had another affair, I'd always ask her, what do we have to wear? And she said, Jim, you can wear anything you want because you never listen to me anyway. So then she had the invitation of the lifetime. She invited Princess Anne of England. Now, these people that I met, it's just incredible because I'm the country boy that hitchhiked. And she invites me, and finally everybody's there, mayors, the governors from different states, and some of the congressmen, and there were probably 15, 20 real prominent people there, and me, and Sue and me. And so anyway, before everybody's circling around in that big, we've been in the castle, it was just, we just did rotunda really going. And she sees me and she, like this, so I come across the thing, and she said, Jim, this is Princess Anne, and I want you to be on your best behavior. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, I know if she comes up to you, which you want to say hello to people, and if she says hi, you don't say, hey Annie baby, how you doing? You don't do that. This is true. So anyway, in comes Princess Anne with her Lord Mayor of London, her entourage of ladies in waiting, all in they ladies and gentlemen, Princess Anne has arrived. And she comes in and Tweet's talking to her. Guess who she goes right across the thing and meets? Moi. She came right over to us, of all those people, and came over, and I took her hand and bowed a little bit, and Sue curtsied, and she said, how you having a good time? And I did not say, how you doing, babe? I didn't. And Sue said, well, I hope you're having a lovely time, and that was the end of that. But meeting Princess Anne, I mean, my experiences, just being a little farm boy and hitchhiking in all through college and having suffered so much with my folks, my dad, anything was, and I don't know how I ever got through college. I think I did. I did graduate. But anyway, we ended up here with Highlands Ranch, and we saw that we have so many people against us, and you can't believe what we had to do to entice, just to get things. And we had Accord, Arapahoe County Council of Governments. We had the state planning, we had the state engineer's office, everybody was against us. And we had to prove to them that we could do the job. And we got along pretty good with them after a while. I gave a presentation to Roy Romer, know his name? And he came out and with his planner, jeez. And I gave the presentation. I had Craig McCallum with me, and pretty soon the guy, just two, Romer and his planner, and pretty soon the guy had fallen asleep, his planner, and I said, Snyder, wake up! And Romer was laughing so hard, and So anyway, what was even funnier was when I finally concluded the little report and presentation. Schneider had one of these vests that had about 10 buttons. You know how hard it is to get the buttons in through some of those little holes. He got all the way through it, but he was one button off. And he had to undo those buttons, and I just was laughing. He deserved it. But they took Romer out to look at the ranch and gave him a presentation out there here, as a matter of fact, in the mansion. And he was a very nice guy, and Lamb said, we're going to buy the ranch. And he said, we couldn't afford the ranch, Jim. That's just a bunch below me. And so it made me feel good. So anyway, we got a good relationship with the state planning group. And I had another meeting with Phil and with my guys. And Phil said, can we do this and that? And I said, no, Dr. Cogg won't approve it. And, well, can we do this? No, Dr. Cogg won't approve it. He said, I want to meet Dr. Cogg. You know what Dr. Cogg is? The Denver Regional Council of Governments. Anyway, so he felt that big, and he left town again, fortunately. But we just really had a wonderful time. We eventually, if you want to go through some of these slides, what do we got here? We developed a plan. We got it all approved by the planning commission and the county council, the planning commission. And afterwards, my presenter, Craig McCallum, an ace guy, he makes the presentation. And after the presentation, he tried to analogize between cattle raising and planning a city. And it fell flat. And so he goes up to Dr. Gil Whitman, who's the chairman, and he said, Mr. Whitman, I really am sorry for trying to analogize between cattle raising and building a city. He said, I'm really sorry. I'm so embarrassed. And Whitman said, don't be worried about that. The most embarrassing thing is all during your presentation, your fly was open. True story. And I put up with an awful lot, and particularly with this guy over here. But he bought more equipment without approval. There's Krager. Did you approve all of his stuff? Well, he was our finance man, Jim Krager, and a wonderful guy. All my guys were wonderful. Jerry Poston. Anybody know Jerry Poston? He was my land planner, and he did all of the subdivision design. He and Terry Teague and some of his other people. And one of the days he had making a presentation, and Craig said, Jerry, Jim probably will tear apart your first plan. And so he said, no, prepare for that. Well, they did. And they put up on the wall, over the top of the plan they wanted to present, an awful plan. And I said, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, Jerry. Jerry goes up and he rips it off of the wall, crumbles it all up, throws it on the floor and walks out of the meeting. And everybody starts roaring because it was all set up. And Jerry never forgave me for that. Jerry was a wonderful person. He did all our land planning with Terry T. I don't know if there's any of those people here tonight, but and Jack Hoppy, and I could name 100 people, and I feel still that I left some of them out. But Jerry died of cancer after 8 years, and he just passed away a couple of years ago, and he did a beautiful job of land planning almost all the subdivisions in the community, and he and his staff. Fortunately, we did make it good. We had a lot of difficulties with certain things. What's that one? How about schools? Nobody liked us. And like I said, and they were against us, but I went down and met with the superintendent of school, and he said, well, we'll approve your plan, but will you build us a school? I said, build you a school? He said, yeah. I said, okay, we'll build you a Northridge Elementary, which we did. We built Northridge Elementary School for the district. Then Highlands Ranch High School was coming up. And I said, how about Highlands Ranch High School? We put it in our community. He said, we can't get to it. I said, well, then we'll build a road, what was now Lone Tree, across our ranch, which is now, what is that, Lincoln, to the high school. And we built that 2-lane road, and we ended up at Highlands Ranch High School, where it is. It just is, it cost us a lot of money, I'll tell you that. But we got the necessary parts of it, and there's more other parts of it too. But have you got, what have we got here? Huh? Okay, well, they had nothing here. You know, you all come and buy a house, and what do? You connect to the electric service, you call up public service or something, you call up a telephone company, and put in a telephone, you, whatever, you know, like things are there. But we had nothing. And we had put in all the drainage, we had to build a treatment plant for water, we had to build a treatment plant for the sewage, and we had to get water. I spent more times in water court perfecting our water rates, and that's another funny story. But anyway, we worked very hard in getting all these things, so when you came in to buy your house, all you had to do was go and sign up for electric and telephone and those things. But we had the responsibility of building the water treatment plant, building all the water reservoirs. It was a tremendous, enormous amount of money, but we did it. We formed what was first Mission Viejo Water and Sand District. Is it Centennial or is that Centennial Water? Okay. Maybe they're combining or something with Metros, I don't know. But anyway, we built all these things, and what a job. You know, we built it all. The roads, the pipelines, the pump stations, all these things. And of course, if you want to talk about it, you can talk about it. But anyway, but then we ended up starting our project. And we started there at Broadway and the freeway. And we got it graded. First part, we had a windstorm that was 100 miles an hour. Covered everything up with sand, and I mean, it was terrible. And believe it or not, I took McCallum and all the secretaries and all my guys, and we went out there with shovels, and we're so upset, we started shoveling out all the stuff that was covered over with it was really gross, but that was the dedication of that many people in. Anyway, we started at Broadway and County Line Road. And you got a picture there of C-47?
Oh, there we go, there's C-47.
Okay, and state, you know, they wanted to build the freeway through, but they wanted to put the freeway right next, maybe 100 yards out from the mansion. It was to come right across the ranch, and I said, over our dead body. And they moved it over to where it is today. And they had condemned land for the right-of-way. And I said, I'll give you the land if you let us build a little overpass at McClellan. And so the attorney came out with the agreement I prepared. And this is funny. I didn't know that the attorney that came out from the state attorney lived 2 houses down from me when we lived out before we moved into Highlands Ranch. We lived in Ken Carroll. And she said, Jim, this is the most beautiful contract. We're going to save the state $12 million. And we're good. And so she went back to Kisslinger, head of the road department, and she came back and she said, they won't accept it. I said, condemn. So we here paid $12 million for right-of-way because we forced them to condemn. And it was terrible. But we didn't get too much empathy from some of those people, but that was one of the bad things. So anyway, the freeway got built, And there's a nice, beautiful overpass now at McClellan, which we would have paid for, but forget that. Anyway, so we ended up starting it there at Broadway, and we thought it was a nice median strip, and we put in some beautiful trees. Fire department, was that fire department?
Yeah.
Jeez, I'm telling you, I'm lucky I got any money. The sheriff comes in and he said, you asked for protection. I said, yeah, we need protection here with our project. And he said, we can't afford it. I said, well, I'll buy you a couple of blazers, equip it with equipment, you get the guys, and you can let them be here in the community. Okay, but we need some land for a training center. How much land do you need? We need about 200 acres. Old Sheriff sold us, one of my good friends now, he retired, but he put the slammer on me. So I went to Phil and said, how about giving him 200 acres? Okay, so we gave the police 200 acres, a couple of blazers, and equipped. That was suffice. But talking about the need for security, we caught 3 guys snooping around out here, and they swore we were building an underground city. True story. And we needed security because it was, people were starting to live in some of our production houses. They'd travel by and they'd move into the houses, and we had to kick them out. It was not easy. Then we had the fire department. I told this guy, Cook, I said, Art, we could have a fire out there, a 4-inch fire when these winds blow. And I said, buy something that we can use to keep the fires down. He went out and he got a big tanker truck or something. We had a fire. We raced the thing out to the fire, turned on the thing, but the whole thing was frozen. It was, I mean, the water was, that's when I decided to go to the city of Littleton and make a contract with them, and they became our fire department. And then we built all these stations around. It seemed, I don't know how we ever ended up with money. You know, all your gifts aren't and giving stuff away. And, but we built rec centers, you know, and during all this building, we did have some very nice parties out here, of which, for the employees. And Art Laws put on a barbecue. Where would you get the beef? Was it one of the...
County Fair.
Yeah, that's what I figured. And I noticed in your refrigerator at home, freezer, there were a lot of steaks in there.
You overdid.
I'm telling you, putting this community together was something, but we did, and it proved, I think, to be a pretty nice place. And so, if I had turned around and gone back after being there in Santa Ana and seeing the smog, Sue and my little Nancy, 6-month-old baby, way back there, you know, we would have headed back. Unfortunately, it was a nice day the next day, and that's when this other thing happened, where I met Margaret and all this stuff. But everything would have changed, because we would have gone back. There would probably be a development here, but not a planned community, I'm sure. There were just hungry subdivision, you know, builders wanted some land. But we decided that the best thing is to control it ourselves, which we did in California. So we ended up with 25,000 homes. We built it in California, and we built them, most of the homes here. And then we sold to Shea. Funny things that happened. I hired a kid right out of, I think it was USC. No, it was CSU. And Jeff Kappas. Maybe you know Jeff, maybe you don't. And he became in with in our community services group and CCR stuff, and finally he left, and after I left, he became the vice president of Shea Homes. He's the vice president of Shea Homes today, right down the street there. I had so many wonderful things happen to my people. The only guy that was a failure was Cook. I love that guy dearly. I mean, my daughter's sitting there, she can attest the fact that for years with all the vacations. Art's a saint? Putting up with me? That's not true. Anyway, it was a fantastic effort, and if anybody has any questions, please ask them, but if we didn't have Philip Morris, we could never have done the things that we did, because they gave us the financial resources to be able to do what we did there in California. Oh, by the way, I wanted to build a lake, and the lake would have been right on the other side of the barn over here, and that whole valley would have been a lake. And my marketing people said, Jim, there's no market for it. We can't see a market for that expensive a house. So Riley said, Phil, I'd like to build a lake, and he's in California. He said, no. He said, marketing says no. I said, okay. So we didn't build a lake. It would have been beautiful. Just imagine a lake. And we had all the water. I spent more time in water for it. The attorneys for the districts would just rip me apart. And as soon as the judge said, that's all for today, they'd all come out and say, come on, Jim, let's go play racquetball. And they were the enemy in the morning, and they were my friends, you know, when they were off. But it was a fabulous experience. Is there anything I left out?
A lot. Well, here's the movie.
Okay. Centennial was filmed here, okay? And Marvin Davis owned the company. What was it? What's it? No, the big movie company that filmed but anyway, we closed escrow, and then Davis had a contract with us that they could film Centennial sections here. And so I got a call on a Saturday morning, and the attorney said, I'm an attorney, so-and-so for Marvin Davis, and I can't understand it, but we can't get on the ranch. I said, what's the matter? He said, they won't let us on the ranch. I said, who won't? He said, Mr. Phipps. He thinks he still owns the ranch. And he's got 2 guys on horseback, plus himself, each with guns, and they would not let him through the gate. True story. I said, what does he want? He wants $8,000. I said, you know, really, I got nothing left, you know, after all his gifts and so forth, but they filmed the film here, and it's turned out to be very good. The things they went to, with the snow and all that sort of thing, it was fantastic. By the way, one of the things I didn't say, when we bought the ranch, this place was a shambles. I went through all the rooms, and it was May something of whatever the year that they vacated the house. All the rooms were dirty, and one room smelled like so much like bee honey. You just wanted to stay there, and we had to get the bees out of there. But and the grass in the front there, where the grass is now, the weeds about like this, and cattle, you know, grazing in the front. And so we got a fence up, and we got the thing under control, and we started refurbishing the mansion here. And then this guy here and Jeff Case, the other engineer for the district, they took as upon themselves as the district to refurbish this whole mansion. And if there's a couple that deserve an applause, it's those 2 guys, because what you've got here today is because of them. I'm surprised a Stanford graduate could do something that pretty. I feel so badly about all the grandkids. And then I'm going here to Wisconsin. I'll bring that back again, but I got that one back there. She just won the state award for, what was it, Katie? What?
Decca.
DECA. Her high school thing, they went to the state championship last week, or the United States, what, the finals? Anyway, and all of my kids graduated cum laude, magna cum laude, or were on the president's list as doing a super job. Every one of them. Even the guy that Max Willis that went to New Mexico and really left me out there. And but they all went to CSU. You know, you ever hear Joe Blake? You know, he was. I hired him, and I could never find Joe. I knew he worked for me, but I think he had something to do with the title company. But anyway, Joe was in the habit of giving everything away. Good old Joe. But Joe left. He became the manager of the downtown Denver downtown Chamber of Commerce, and then he went on to become the chancellor at CSU. I mean, it's you still stayed there in the camp, but I had Jim Nicholson, who was one of my attorneys here, and he went on to become the ambassador to the Vatican in Rome. And then he became the head of the Veterans Administration, and he did not have anything to do with the big, okay? You believe me? Okay, all right, thank you. And then he formed his own development company and built a town up in North Denver. Craig McCallum, he went on to become the, had his own company and built homes down in Castle Rock. And it was just one after the other. Except Art stayed in the capital. I love Art. And so anyway, anything, what else?
Something about how you,
I can't see.
community is a family.
Huh?
Develop it as a family community.
Oh, yeah. When Phil and I started that company way back when God invented whatever, we sat down and he said, Jim, we're going to have one thing that's going to be 10 on our minds. We're going to do things honestly. And he said, we're going to do it with integrity, and we're going to do what the people would like to have, not what we want them to have, what they would like to have. And we developed community activity committees in California, which Art was very much a part of, and they participated in all of our decisions, and we did the same thing here in Highlands Ranch. And I think that the things that we built were really with the input from you people, not just what we wanted. You know, here at Toepfer, the great planner, you know, from Wisconsin too. And remember that if you have any kids send them to Wisconsin. And, it was, what else did you say, Danny?
The lottery.
The what?
Lottery budget.
Oh, we had a lottery, yeah. People wanted our stuff, so once they had to take a lottery, we had lotteries, and we sold them positions, you know. They'd draw out of a hat, and I remember one got first choice, two, and this was happening all the time. It was incredible, the reception that we got when we opened our first subdivision. Nancy, you're here again. You moved into one of the first houses. And, yeah, Scott. And the Scots were the first family. Where did they stand up before? Okay, I'm repeating myself. At my age, you get to do that, okay? Thank you. And why were you all saying yes so quickly? I don't know. What else, Diane, did I, Forrest? Do you want to finish the
Here's the
spiel?
mortgage rate.
Oh, we've been on that. We've been there. You know, they didn't like the 12% now. But anyway, we built the entries and we made them consistent throughout the project, and University and Broadway, and were our main two entrances, of which we tried to really do beautifully. And then we led down to the rec center, and we ended up at the town center, and we have these little different centers throughout the community, and it just all came out, in my opinion, beautifully. And it was all because of the cooperation that we had with the county eventually, in the state, because you have no idea how tough it was to get groups to go along with us. And when we had the hearing, I think one person stood up and objected to our plan in the whole county. One person. We got rid of him real fast. And, but we accomplished our goal. Going back to California for a second, I think I'm right here that there was so much bad stuff going on. And I think 3 of the 5 commissioners in the county ended up in prison. And I can never understand why their engineer had a beautiful boat that was down there in, off the Baja Peninsula, you know, sailing that all the time. And, I guess they were just underpaid, overpaid. But here, everybody was above board. We got to know these people. Doc Duncan, you know Doc?
He was the one guy who was against.
Yeah, he was against our plan, always was, but he always was a gentleman about it. And but he'd invite Sue and me down to his house. And he said, come on in, we're gonna have some cherry punch. And he'd open up the stove, his wife would have the stove going, and we sit in chairs around and we put our feet up on the thing that opened, and we drink cherry wine, which was 90% vodka and 1% cherry juice. I mean, wowie. But he was a dear person, his wife, and I think they're both passed by now, but just wonderful people. The Whitmans, we got to know them. They still send me Christmas cards, and they moved to, I think, to Wyoming, and they've all gone different ways, but a lot of them are dead. But anyway, it was a very, very wonderful experience here, and once we got approvals, and people got to know us, that we weren't trying to stone them, that we were really had a plan to provide for them. And it was very rewarding, to say the least, not just for me, but for the residents, because it could have been so different. Like I say, probably none of you would have been here right tonight. You may have been in a subdivision someplace else, but to have a community like this one, not because of me, but just because of you people going along with the plan and the people having trust in us and faith, we accomplished what we did. And the only drawback that I think that I had in this whole project was our cook. Art, do you want to say one thing to defend yourself? Yes. That's enough. I do. Point your finger at me.
I do. They want to know about.
Cancer falling out, Art. Sorry, Art. She's like, what are you doing? Can't you speak louder?
Oh, it's tied up. Is there that mic? Oh, thank you.
All right, you get 2 seconds, then I'm pulling the plug.
Okay, here's the development plan. This is really what they worked on. This is what Jim and his initial crew of 12, he says, or something like that, worked on. It took a year to develop this plan. This is the planned community. And that's why it's so different from subdivisions. You heard him refer to subdivisions. Mission Viejo is not a subdivider, it's a planned community developer. You look at this plan and it's today essentially the same as it is right here. And the reason I love this plan so much is because a year after they developed this plan, that's when they started going public. They took it to the jurisdictions, planning commissions, water districts, all those jurisdictions. Once you do that, what happens? It's made public. And once it's made public, what happens? Everybody now wants to know about it. Now that's why Jim asked me to come out here. He wanted me to talk to the public about this plan. And he showed it to me. And this plan, I knew it up and down and around. And I would go to organization after organization. Whoever wanted to hear about it, I'd take this plan with me. And today, it's essentially the same plan today. You see the circular roads, you see the commercial areas, you see the open spaces, the densities of residential and everything. It's the same today essentially as it was then.
Thank you.
Okay. And it was really, the secret is the development plan, and that's why I'm so proud of being a part of Mission Viejo Company Highlands Ranch. It's great. It's like that today. It was like that from the plan that they developed.
That's one thing that was bad about Artie, he was always talking, so long-winded. But we did a great job of community planning and the organization, not planning, organization, and the groups, and just a wonderful bunch of people in this community. I said, I think that concludes, is that, you think it's good? Diane?
Thank you, Jim.
Was that good or
People, we have to take some questions here now. If anybody has any questions, if you please raise your hand, and I'll bring you the microphone so that you can ask.
All right, I get to ask the question, why are, I don't know whether you were the one or not, but why are all the streets changing names all the
Why doesn't you have a Good, let me talk to that person. I want to talk to the street named after you. I want him to have a street named after you.
Okay, I'll give us your name and we'll put the street name on it. Any other questions?
We're going to name one after Maggie.
See how satisfied
We
they
got a
are?
question over here.
They have no... Yes.
Hi, Jim. My name is Leonard Berman. We've lived here for about 25 years and it's been absolute joy living here. So number one, I'd love to thank you for developing this.
Wasn't
And the question I have is the history, short history, of Mission Viejo selling to Shea Homes, the reason for that, and how did you get Shea Homes to continue this development? And are you happy that occurred, sad that occurred, etc.?
Well, I was retired by that time. It was 1993, I think. And there when they sold the ranch. And but Shea, the president, was a good friend of mine, and I knew that he had, when he lived here in Highlands Ranch, had a son that went on to Gonzaga basketball team and became famous. And he carried out the same ideas that we had. So that's why the company sold to him, because they, one, they had the money, and number two, they concurred with what the plans were that we developed as a company, and so we're happy. So is Mr. What's his name? Huh? No, Bert Zelda. What a great guy. He come over here, and when he became the chairman of the board, he would sit in the basketball games, and his son played for, I think, Highlands Ranch. Yeah, high school, and went on to be a good star in Gonzaga. Never went to Wisconsin, but kicked off there.
Mr. Toepfer?
Yes.
I would like to know that when you were at Wisconsin, did you ever catch pass?
That gentleman is the past sheriff of Douglas County. He is one of my best friends, seriously, especially after he retired. But yes, to answer your question, I never dropped a pass. And the records can show that. And I was not an All-American or anything, but I never dropped a pass. Does that satisfy you, Sheriff?
I'll believe you now.
Okay, another question over here?
You're crazy. You can say that now that he's not sheriff.
Thanks again for your presentation. What were people here afraid of when the idea of Mission Viejo Corporation coming out to Colorado was first introduced to them? What was their fear?
That we were going to Californicate Colorado. And they thought for sure we were going to build like any other, just subdivision. It could have been very easy for us to have taken that entry and sold off 40 acres right at the corner of Dad Clark and Broadway, and to another section to somebody else, and just do what the normal subdividers do. They just buy a hunk of land and build, and you're left with whatever it is. Some have built nice communities, but that's what I think we built. We stayed in control of everything. And right even after Shea bought it, I think that Shea Homes has done a very nice job. And the vice president, who I hired when he was out of college, has proven to be a real neat person and carried out the same type of tradition that we have. Any other questions?
I guess, Jim, we'll get another question back here.
All right.
Jim, there are very few straight streets in Highlands Ranch. Do you have anything to do with that?
Yes. Straight streets are not good. We need curvilinear streets to take away the sameness. We could have just, again, you could go right straight down and just, and so we tried to take into consideration, one of the major things is the terrain. You just can't go booming through like this, and just through grading and destroy hills. So we had to consider the topography, and that's one of our things. And when it comes to building a subdivision, there's things called, you have to figure out what the amount of cut is and cut and fills, and you have to equal the mountain. So you just can't go moving a mountain and expect it to be financially viable. I'm not sure of anything that was financially viable that we ever did. We seem like we paid for everything. Anyway, that's why we had to go with the terrain.
Thank you for your presentation. My question was, one of the biggest changes to the master plan is there's been a significant number of changes to the commercial zoned areas. For instance, the golf course community and in around Shea Center, and I think even Palomino Park was originally commercial. How do you think that's going to impact the community long-term, just kind of the lack of commercial space here in Highlands Ranch?
I can't answer your question because I retired. When I retired, we followed that plan explicitly. And so whatever happened along the way by Shea Homes, it happened. But I'm sure that there had to be a reason for it, but I'm not sure. You're talking about the golf course. What development are you talking about?
The whole golf course community, I think, was on the master plan. The whole golf course community was zoned industrial, and there's been other changes like that.
I don't believe that. I don't remember anything like that we rezoned it from residential to industrial. I'm sorry.
Jim, you had a story about naming the streets. Could you tell us about that?
Well, it was easy here, but in California it was difficult. And we tried to do things that were Spanish oriented, and unfortunately, or whatever, there were only just a handful of us when we started that company. And one of the jobs I had was not only to get the subdivisions designed, but to name streets. And I ended that, they took it away from me, they being Phil, because I had an intersection of Hamon and the Huevos. You know what that is? Ham and eggs. And it was right below my house where we lived in Mission, and Hamon and Huevos. And so I got Marty Russo, I think yours is assistant, to go into the naming business. Then we finally hired somebody to name streets because it's not very fun, especially for me, but anyway, you want to name streets? I can get you a job, okay?
My house was built in 1983, and I have in my bedroom a plate that has... My house was built in 1983, and I have a plate in my master bedroom that has a little knob for fire and one for police, and I'm wondering what that's all about. Do you don't have any idea either? Okay.
Hold on, we have an answer over here.
Who? You have an answer?
When Mission built the original homes here, they wired them all for security. They had a security system out, and I know that because our first home had the same thing. In fact, our second and third homes had the same thing. So that's what it was for. And I don't know if you were the original owner or not, but the previous owner probably didn't hook up the security system.
Okay. Better than nothing.
I have two questions for you, Jim.
All right.
Right over here, Jim. Right here. Two questions for you. The first is, who designed the logo for Highlands Ranch? And the second is, did you play offensive or defensive lineman? Is that the reason you never brought a pass?
I didn't drop a pass.
You dropped a pass?
Dropping is a lot different between dropping and But what was your question again?
The first one was, who designed
where's Kathy Brock? Is Kathy Brock here? Stand up, Kathy. How did we get Kathy was one of our main consultants for, do you know what the reason we developed it with the eagle, and we went through all kinds of different things.
We looked for an epic
And I
bird.
felt, yeah.
It was to be an epic bird, and it was to be representative of the West. And it pleases me to see it still out there on the sign 30-some years. Usually the first thing people do is to change the logo. This one has endured as this really has. Thank you.
Thank you. I got a really funny story to tell you. When I took over this thing, we came over here, the first thing Philip Morris did was assign me to be chairman of the, what do you call it, the art committee. And they sent out two girls, and we put on this big display in the uptown the art museum, and they had me evaluate the projects, the paintings. So we sat in my conference room and looked at them, and there was one that was a ladder stuck out about this far, and just against the wall, and there were about 6 little stones coming out from it. And I told the group there, New York people thought, wow, this is really fancy. I said, well, I'm not going for that thing. Anyway, make a long story short, went to the museum, to the art show, and here's this thing that's leaning against the wall with these little stones. It took first place. I lasted about another 2 weeks, and they took me off of the classical arts committee for Philip Morris. They said I had no taste. But it was, yes.
Hello, Jim. I just want to say I'm probably the new kid on the block. We just moved here 6 months ago because our daughter lived here and wanted to be by our grandkids. We were in the military, lived all over the world. We've never lived in a planned community. We absolutely love it.
Oh, thank you.
And I love driving down to the shopping and seeing the mountains. You did good. Just love it. Just need it.
I want to tell you one more sad story, if I may, because it affected me so much. My wife was, we were married 58 years. She ended up with a double mastectomy, open heart surgery, 2 pig valve put in, ascending aorta replaced, and a hysterectomy. And she died in hospice, but the day she died, where's my grandson, Will? Is he here?
He's cheap.
He graduated from SC, or UNC. And we went up there, and there were, I don't know, 1,200, 1,500 kids out there on the field, and the big, and all the important people underneath. And all of a sudden, just when they were gonna announce all the names, the cloud came over and it was black, and the wind went from this direction exactly 180 degrees. We raced home, and right then Sue died. Any other questions?
Well, Jim, we have time for one more question here.
Hi, this is not a
Back
question.
here.
Here I am. Hi, Jim.
Where are you? Okay.
This is a question. To say what this the lady in the lavender said, I went to a garage sale last week, and there was a woman there, and she was from Austria, and she had lived all over the world. And she said when her husband got assigned here, she said, oh no, I don't ever want to go to the United States. She's been in Highlands Ranch for a year. She has to leave, and she is so sad. This is the best place, she said, ever. And the people, she said, are the nicest people that she has met in the world. But what I wanted to say is one of the things that I love about Highlands Ranch is that the schools and the churches and the things are up high in open areas where you can enjoy the heritage of the mountains. And I just love the layout of our city. And my husband, he has a saying, you never have to leave the ranch. Everything is here. And we don't have the traffic to deal with once we leave the ranch.
Traffic is really bad.
It's not bad here.
You've never been on C-470 and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon going east or west? Thank you for your comments. It's very nice of you to say that.